Are you familiar with FBI Special Agents Kyle Seraphin?
I'm familiar with the name.
Is that yes?
I'm familiar with the name. Familiar with the name. Familiar with the name.
Let's bring in Kyle Seraphin. He's the FBI whistleblower who helped expose government censorship of our First Amendment rights.
Now, we only have this memo because a recently suspended FBI agent called Kyle Seraphin brought it to the public. And we're grateful that he did. Kyle, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
He's the host of something that strangely is called the Kyle Seraphin Show.
Kyle Seraphin, I can't thank you enough for speaking out. I knew you guys were out there, and I knew it was just a matter of time, but you got a lot of guts putting your face and your name to this. You're doing a service on behalf of the American people, and from the bottom of my cracked and broken heart sometimes, thank you very much.
Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. Yeah, I didn't hit the mute button, so I had to unmute it. It's Wednesday. It is August the 14th, and we're rolling live right now on rumble.com. We are over on Facebook and YouTube and X, Twitter, if you're joining us there. Join us over on Rumble. That's where the chat is. That's where you guys are bumping along. We will restream them. And we're also on Locals. You guys can join our Locals community. Whether the show is running or not, you can see some of the stuff we're doing behind the scenes. You can see the fact that we run the entire live stream over there. It's at kyleseraphin.com. Just go to myname.com, kyleseraphin.com. Make sure you've liked everywhere you guys are watching this. We got I think, a refocusing show today. It seems like we've been getting off message as I keep being told I'm part of a movement. So if we're part of a movement, I want to be part of a movement that makes sense, that moves in a direction I care about. And that doesn't mean drag queens dressed up and saying MAGA things. I think that's disgusting. I want to talk about issues. I want to see this country do better because I only care about any of this stuff because I care about how it affects my family, how it affects my kids, and how it affects their future. If you're in that same camp, let's do a little refocus. Let's do a little honing in on where it's at. It's fun to make fun of Tim Walz for his garbage, record of saying things about weapons of war and not serving in a conflict zone and going to Italy and hanging out with his family over there and calling that a wartime deployment. All that stuff's fun, but it's not serious, and it doesn't make people vote one way or another. And it doesn't get the normies, like we like to call them, the people that are not listening to the show, that are not paying attention, it doesn't get them into the fight. It doesn't get them out into the ballot box so that they actually do a vote in favor of a policy that is beneficial. All right. Can we move on and be serious? And that's what I would like to see. Seems like Donald Trump got a little rattled. Listen, I don't blame the man. He got shot, right? He went out, he was speaking, he was doing his thing. He was talking about the issues. He was talking about immigration, exactly what he should do. He was literally pointing at the chart saying, these are the numbers, and this is what is good, and this is what is bad about this particular group. The people that are in power right now are screwing it up. And that's when the shots basically derailed the next couple weeks. So you get a pass, but it's time to refocus. I'd also like to not let that fall away. CNN would like us to kind of just dismiss the fact that the man was shot. So we'll do all of those things today. We're going to talk about all that stuff. Before we get started, let's kind of talk about the fact that our motto here on the show, if there is a motto at all, it's prepare or repair, right? And you guys can prepare by going to preparelikekyle.com. All right. You know that I think it's your responsibility. It's my responsibility as a parent, as a father, as a husband, to be prepared, to be ready. That's why I have My Patriot Supply in our closet, and I do. I've got 2 stacks of it. Right now, they've got a deal on the 3-month Mega Emergency Food Kit. It's got 33 varieties of food. You've got options, things like creamy chicken-flavored rice, old-fashioned Italian spaghetti, savory broccoli and cheese soup. That doesn't sound like my favorite, to be fair. I hate broccoli, but everything else, get it done. It does give you a bonus protein pack. That's a big deal. You're going to have the diced beef. You're going to have flavorful chicken chunks. You'll have varieties of beans, things like that. You're going to have 9 different fruits, vegetables, and snacks, all of this in a kit that gives you 2,500 calories per day, which is 25% more than a lot of these kits set up. It is your duty as an American to protect your family, as a father, as a mother, as a husband, as a citizen. You got to do these things, folks. Start with some food that you can depend on that's going to last for up to 25 years. Go to Prepare Like Kyle right now. Save $300 on the Mega 3-month Emergency Food Kit. It ships fast. It's free shipping. and you'll be able to get it at preparelikekyle.com. Preparelikekyle.com. Yeah, we do. We have a whole closet that's basically full of emergency food at this point. Food and ammo. That's what we're all about here. The spammo economy, if you will. It's important. Like, look into it. Make sure and I actually did a cost test. This is not part of the promo per se, but I actually was at Costco the other day and I did a cost comparison based on calories. It's slightly cheaper than what you could buy the sort of ready meal buckets, which are the same kind of packaging that you get at Costco. The upside is you get a massive variety compared to what you get if you were just to buy the same thing over and over and over again. They have 6 different buckets that they double up on if you go and buy these 3-month food kits. So check into that kind of stuff. Seriously, arm yourself with food, with calories, with capabilities. Should we get launched into this stuff? It's dumb. I'm trying to debate whether we want to do a CNN clip first. Let's just start with the article here. So this is CNN. This is their lead story today. Trump's continued attack on Harris. I'm sorry, on Harris's rise. They just put an apostrophe. There probably should be an S. On Harris's rise, stir fears that he could question the election outcome if he loses in November. You guys still think we're going to have an election in November? They're setting it all up. From from where I'm sitting right now, it looks like everything is being set up to say that if they steal it and there's any questions about it, it's Trump's fault. It's your fault for looking at what's happening and saying this is not fair. There's a woman right now who has not given a press conference in coming up on 25 days. She has come to the top of the ticket without a single primary vote. She's running around raising tens of millions of dollars. 310 million was the one that was the haul in July. And we've seen that this stuff is being astroturfed. There are people that are parking money, probably stealing IDs and making significant donations in the name of people that don't have the money to do it. So they're seeding all this money in there. They're parking it in to do what? To buy access? It bothers me that there is no fear in the Democrat campaign. They basically said, okay, we had a guy, we were working along, we're not worried. Oh, we got to swap him out Indiana Jones style. We've taken off the gold idol, the old Joe Biden, we've slapped in the bag of sand, which is Kamala Harris, and everything is good to go, and they're just running. And now, if you question it, it's because Donald Trump is stirring fears that he's going to attack the election results. This is the CNN piece. She's officially the Democratic presidential nominee. But Donald Trump continues to describe her rise to the top of the ticket as unconstitutional and taking part in a coup. Okay, the unconstitutional part, that's not true, obviously. So that is a bad line of attack. Again, this is off message. This is off focus. The coup part, it's 100% the case. All Trump needs to do is sew up that there is no daylight between Kamala Harris and Joe Biden because she is currently part of the Biden regime. She's currently part of that administration. And so every single thing that Joe Biden has called out and failed at, it sits right in her lap as well. That's the only place that you can do this. She cannot run away from the record that she is currently in the office serving. She was the break-even vote on Biden's policies in the Senate, right? She was the 51. She was the 51st. When it was 50-50, it went over to Kamala Harris. She literally gets the vote on it. That's not even something the president can do. He signs it into action. He signs it into law. Kamala Harris is the one who gets to do it. Hammer home these inadequacies. And interestingly enough, this is a CNN article talking about it. They're talking about how he's gotten off message, and I think that's true. So it's time to refocus on that. This is Van Jones, who is an absolute simp. He is an effeminate man whenever he comes out. I don't even know if he is in real life. I feel like this is an act. It looks like an act. I've watched him cry on live television. So I don't think that this is a way that normal men behave, but maybe he does. Maybe this is the way he operates. When he's talking about this, he's actually correct, even though he is a suck up and a sycophant to the Kamala Harris regime, the Biden regime, to anything on the political left. He's their hard version of the left, or their soft version of the left, if you will. Van Jones talking about this. He's not wrong. The messaging has gotten off topic. I disagree with the way that he presents it, but the facts here that he's laying out, this is what the other side is listening to, and it makes them feel like they have an advantage. And so they're going to paint anybody who doesn't accept that Donald Trump has an election stolen from him as a sore loser and not as a real problem. Now, we also know, and I'll just do this before I put the clip up, we know that the FBI, who should be the ones investigating election fraud and crimes, is only interested in turnout. They're only interested in disenfranchisement of people, that if anybody is denied the ability to vote, that's what they want to investigate, and threats to poll workers. But not fraud, not deception. That's a big deal. It continues to be a problem. The DOJ is not interested in securing the election. They're interested in making sure that everybody has the ability to vote, including people who may not be allowed to vote. If they vote, that's okay. Better more than less is the DOJ policy right now. They've already told us this. They're not interested in going after fraudulent ballots or wide-scale fraud of any kind. So the priorities have been set. And now they're setting it up that if you don't believe what they say, you're the problem. You're the one who's stoking fear and hatred and danger and everything else. You're the one that's the threat to democracy. All right, here's Van Jones. He's telling Trump to refocus. Like, God forbid they actually get the right answer there. So let's pull it off.
He's failing and flailing. Listen, they're saying that this is the worst 3 weeks of his campaign. That's what the press is saying. This is a year in which he got indicted, convicted, and shot at and actually hit by a bullet. And none of that to him is as bad as possibly not getting as much attention as Kamala. Like, that's the only thing that's happened, is that he's just not getting as much attention as Kamala Harris. He is more freaked out about that than, being a convicted crook and someone who almost got killed. So that lets you know the level of narcissistic challenge that we have here. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris is doing exactly what she needs to do. Everybody's, she's got to talk to a reporter. She's got to talk to a reporter. Would you notice that she's already done like 19 impossible things in a row? She united the Democratic Party. She picked a VP that made everybody happy in the party. She's managed to actually get us on path to a convention that people are excited about. She's somehow gotten Biden out of the way without him hating her or anybody else. She is a political mastermind that's been underestimated her whole career. She's doing amazing. At some point, she'll talk to a reporter. But in the meantime, this guy is falling apart in plain view.
It's interesting, Van, the whole talk to a reporter thing. Do you think she...
Oh, it's interesting, is it? Oh, okay. Folks, if you're just joining us over on any of the platforms, make sure you've hit the like button at some point in time during this video. Listen, end of the day, is he literally calling her a political mastermind? Because that's what he did. That's what I heard. I'm going to show you why she's not. She's running against her own record that is part of the administration she's in. You can't be a mastermind. You're a dunce. What they're counting on is that the people that are going to vote for them are morons. And that's why you have to refocus. That's why Trump needs to refocus. He's not wrong. The guy got off message. Trump is as susceptible to this kind of stuff as anybody else. Do you remember when we used to talk about the cat and the laser pointer? Because I haven't brought that up in a while, but it is my favorite analogy. It's the shiny object theory. It's the dangling something and making people run for it. They just dangled out a bunch of red meat. And the MAGA types, the Republican types, and even conservatives, like guys like me, we don't fit into that camp, but I'm generally aligned with y'all. We get distracted. Anybody is susceptible to it. The laser pointer theory is that they hold out something and they're shining a light on the ground. If you've ever seen a cat chase a laser pointer, you put the light on the ground and the cat attacks the carpet, and then it attacks the couch, and then it attacks the curtains, and then it attacks the chair, and it runs around. But the laser's coming from somewhere else, and they're being manipulated. We can all have our attention span manipulated. Donald Trump is certainly susceptible to that by a lot of people. They hang something out in front of him. They show him a bunch of things. Kamala Harris stole his policy. She's got a new no tax on tips. Now you're going to talk about how she's a thief of the policy. No, just talk about, look, why does she need to do that? Why does she need to reduce the burden on people that are working class? Oh, because their policies have failed? Because they're absolutely atrocious? This is why there's a refocusing need. And this is coming from NBC News, saying that Trump allies have ratcheted up pressure to refocus the messaging and increase the campaign intensity. These have been a not great 3 weeks. As I said, if you get shot, you get a pass. That's totally fair. We got plenty of time left to focus on the things that, end of the day, Americans have an incredibly short attention span. The last 3 weeks are going to be the most important things for people that don't otherwise listen to politics, to the people that are not paying attention. But you better get yourself in the momentum so that those last 3 weeks can perform. You can't win a race if you're not in the running at the last, leg of it. If you let everybody get out in front of you at some point in time, it's going to be an insurmountable lead. I am going to show you that this is not something that should be panicky, because the best thing that can be done for the political left is underestimation. But more importantly, the best thing that can be done for this country is to focus in on the fact that we have some real problems. America's not in a great spot. And if we're being honest about it, it's impossible to deny these things. It's daily news of illegal immigration. It's daily news about inflation. It's daily news of people trying to get something done financially and not being able to do it, not being able to afford a house, not being able to hold on to things. People who are going to get canceled for their jobs. That culture still exists. I just talked to a space that was full of a bunch of women who are kind of like on the feminist side and kind of being converted over from leftism. And they're talking about holding their nose and voting for someone that they consider to be closer to Hitler. And why would they do that? Because Donald Trump's record is better on protecting women's rights. This situation that happened at the Olympics with the boxer that beat the hell out of another out of a female that was an XY chromosome, even if raised as a female. We're talking about a man beating on a woman. Like, those are bad policies. So women will look and go, the Biden administration is all in on radicalizing the federal government, on using the Department of Education and weaponizing things like Title IX and making us fight this battle in the courts. So you're going to have a lot of allies that would otherwise not be interested, because there's an incredible contrast between what Donald Trump did well, which is not everything, but it's a lot of things, and what this administration has done overwhelmingly, which is terrible. You can't underestimate the man, because Donald Trump can't be counted out. Here's a good example of why. And if they're paying attention, the other side, this is what they are going to see. They can talk about Kamala Harris, the mastermind, all they want. End of the day, she's inferior, I think, on many levels to a Hillary Clinton, other than the DEI aspect of it, that she comes in with a different color skin and she's a little bit younger. She's totally unlikable. She has the same sort of weird cackling thing where she doesn't take questions seriously. And the minute that she's asked a serious question, she can't give a serious answer. It's the reason why she hasn't sat for a real press conference yet. They're going to distract from it. Oh, and having to talk to a reporter. Yeah, how about unscripted questions right off the cuff, stand up in front of them, and people are going to ask you real questions. Do we expect that from the left? No. Meanwhile, Donald Trump, even if he's being outpolled, it's kind of not that important. I hate polling. I don't believe it, and neither do you. And actually, neither do these guys.
I want to take a step back and sort of point out we've kind of been here before. So August 13th, how far were the polls off in Michigan, Pennsylvania, in Wisconsin? And this is in 2016 and 2020. Trump was estimated both times around and by significant margins. Take a look here. In 2016, the average poll in those states that I mentioned, those Great Lake battleground states, Trump was underestimated by 9 points on average at this point in 2016. How about 2020? It wasn't a one-off. Look at this. He was underestimated by 5 points on average. And of course, Kamala Harris's advantage in those New York Times Siena College polls were 4 points in each of these key battleground states, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. The bottom line is this. If you have any idea, if you're a Kamala Harris fan and you want to rip open the champagne bottle, pop that cork, do not do it. Donald Trump is very much in this race. If we have a polling shift like we've seen in prior years from now until the final result, Donald Trump would actually win. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I am saying that he is very much in this ballgame based upon where he is right now, and compare that to where he was in prior years.
Okay, he's not saying it's going to happen. Yet another sort of indicator that they don't actually expect this thing to go any reasonable way. Who likes Kamala Harris? Like, you can't find people walking around that are excited about this lady. The article that I'm looking at here, again, NBC News. So on the left, they're quoting people who are familiar with the campaign, whatever the heck that means. It says, when we're effectively able to put Biden's record on her, it will go back to being to what it was before. In other words, it'll be able to poll. It'll be able to show that people realize that she's a radical. And it actually is easier to put a radical message on Kamala Harris than it is on Joe Biden, because Joe Biden is Mr. Flip-Flop. Kamala's been pretty radical, and she hasn't been in the public eye for nearly as long as Joe Biden. There's another thing that says he did it in 2016. He did it in 2020 and got close. Yeah, sure. Right? Then he goes out there to these states and he has the ability to make a positive message. It's a simple contrast with what her message is. I totally agree. You've got a short window right now to punch it. This stuff should be front and center. There are two things: immigration and the economy. That's it. That's all that really matters. And along with those are the analogs, which is crime, which is that people's situations are worse, but their money situation is how they're going to vote. and how they feel about being able to get employment and whether or not their wages are being driven down by this mass horde of people that have come in that are getting government subsidies and can work for less. When you, as someone who is a working class person, are funding someone else being able to outbid you on a job, and by outbid you, I mean bid a lesser dollars because they're already getting your money from taxes and from everything else that's going on in the public subsidies, it's a no-brainer. You just have to connect that message and make it hit home. This kid, do you remember this guy? The I'm gonna be sick Walmart guy? This message could be played just on repeat. You don't even need sophisticated stuff. Throw it on TikTok. Have him retweet this over and over again. It's the only message that makes a difference. Things cost a ton more than they used to. Are you cool with that? If not, I'm your guy. This is Donald Trump's easy messaging.
I feel like I'm gonna be sick. I just, looked through my Walmart history, and I found this, Walmart order from 2 years ago for the whole month worth of groceries. 45 items cost $126. A whole month of groceries just for me, basically. But I did notice this reorder all button, and I wanted to see how much it would cost now. Now, this order of 45 items for 1 month would have cost $414. That is 4 times more. How the fuck? How? What?
Hey, little brother. Yeah, that's called inflation. That's what happens when your government prints out tons of money. When the money printer is going brrrr and sending it out, and then we take all of our money that we are collecting and don't spend it on domestic priorities, but we send it into war zones because somebody was a weak leader on an international scale and another nation saw a vulnerability and decided to go ahead and take action. That's what you get. And by the way, maybe you get conscripted into the army that gets to fight for that war. So you can fund it. You can pay a bunch more while you're sitting here going through basic training and trying to get your Walmart food. And then you can go over and serve in it too. That's how it works. If you guys haven't seen this video before, it went viral a couple of weeks ago. That's how fast the news cycle moves. All of this stuff is bad. This is going to be a clip-heavy show, it turns out, because there's a lot of examples of these kind of things. And then there's people on the left that are celebrating. Let them celebrate Kamala Harris. Let him say how great she is, and then pin this stuff to her. Again, I've got clips all day long. This is NBC asking people, hey, how does inflation hit you? This is a woman who probably otherwise leans towards the left, just based on where she's living and based on the panel she's on, based on the network. It's a black female who looks like she's probably in her, 50s, maybe early 60s. And she said she's struggling. And then she has empathy for the people that make less money than her. This is where that message hits. If Donald Trump wants to be the blue collar billionaire and talk about people and meet them where they're at, it's like, look, I get it. You don't have to like me as a person. Lots of people around me sometimes don't like me, but I care about this. I care about the future of this country. I want my kids to be able to be profitable. I want them to have good people who are educated and are able to do work. I want to start businesses. I want my kids to start business. I want their businesses to be successful. They will not be in this current environment. And how do I know that? Because you're not successful. How are we going to have success if people are struggling just to make ends meet? Anyway, listen to this lady. She's kind of emotional on it. There is an emotional pull to this. It doesn't have to be fact-based because economics sounds boring right up until you go and look in your own wallet and you got to make a hard decision, what you can pay for and what you can't, and what creditors you're going to have coming after you.
How hard has inflation hit you?
It hit me hard. It's hitting me hard.
What do you blame for it?
I blame the federal government at this point. If a working class mom who works as a paralegal cannot buy a $2 bell pepper because it's now $5, imagine a mother living on food stamps. Imagine a mother who's making minimum wage trying to feed children. They're killing us without killing us. If you understand that. They're killing us without telling us they're killing us. They're hurting people in ways that they can't help themselves. It's either feed my child or how about feed my children and I don't, but I have to go work.
They're killing us without killing us. Well, that's true too. That's the slow kill. That's what inflation does. It robs your savings because it makes the value of the things you've saved less. And it reduces your buying power. But they're not just killing us without killing us. They're killing us, and their policies are actually killing people. That's the crime aspect of it. All of these things can be hammered home. And there's examples literally every day, horrifically enough. There are examples every single day at some part of this country. If you go and grab a clip, I could do an entire show on this. I can grab clips from local news stations of illegal immigrants killing, raping, stealing from people, and doing serious bodily damage in every single state. It happens. Places that you can't fathom it happening. I'm going to play you a little taste of it a little bit later on. I'm telling you, it's absolutely everywhere. It's killing us without killing us is the message, right up to the point where it's killing us while killing us. Speaking of that, I don't know why today seems like the way to talk about it, but I've got a new association with my friends over at Shield Arms. They're a Kalispell, Montana company. They make firearms. They make magazines for the Glock 43 and the 43X and the 48. Some of them are appropriate for on duty. They're in the Gen 3 of their best magazines. I carry them every single day. If you guys want to get hooked up with them, go to shieldarms.com. You can use the promo code Kyle. It's the same thing. It's in the links in the descriptions. You'll get 5% off site-wide. It's not a ton of money off, but that includes firearms, which is a better deal than you'll get most other places. Awesome company, really, really cool people, and it's run by shooters. It's run by a guy who used to be in the Army marksmanship unit and another guy who was a tech guy, but he got involved in competitive shooting. They love shooting. They love weapons. If you guys want to get like really good products that do an awesome job, it's what I carry every single day now. I use their mag wells on my little Glock. I have an RMR type, optic on there, but you can carry up to like 20 rounds in a gun that's like the size that'll fit in your wallet almost. It's awesome. Anyway, check them out. Shieldarms.com, promo code KYLE. Let's keep pushing forward. Not saying that you guys need to shoot this out, but I'm just saying if you're not preparing for it, it's not good. Let's do another little example. There is no joy in America. That's a tough line. This one's coming from Fox, so obviously a little more right-leaning. How about a little taste of this animal?
I feel like everything that you purchase at the store now has gone up substantially. So learning how to budget better has been a challenge. There's going to be some sacrifices that we have to make as a family.
Nowadays, it's just hopelessness because we don't know when this doom loop is going to end.
I buy for the grandsons, so it's just the prices have gone up so much.
So that was a woman in Dumfries at the end. There was a woman in somewhere in the Midwest. I couldn't tell if it was Texas, but it looks like Texas-style brick houses. And then a guy in San Francisco. People talking all across the country about what? Money. How it affects their pocketbooks. Inflation making things more difficult. Yes, are those choice clips? Of course they are. But it's everywhere. And the challenges are not just for consumers, they're also for the businesses, which means they're going to have a hard time hiring. They're going to have a hard time paying things. This is that doom spiral that Steve Friend and I talked about. It affects every single person from corporate CEOs all the way down to the working poor. The focus has to hone in on this stuff. Here's a little discussion of the challenges for businesses. When people can't live in a comfortable America, when the things that are their luxury items, and I would say that going out and buying coffee at a store is a luxury item. We don't do that here. We make it here at home. But if you're doing that and you're buying coffee out and now you can't, your lifestyle is not as good. Is that not what Make America Great Again is? That Americans can have the luxuries of a great company? A country where you can enjoy using disposable income to do things that you want to do. You want to go spend money on superfluous things like someone else makes your coffee for you. That's great. This is where that mission has to hit home. All right. Challenges for businesses. Even companies I don't like, they're still making a good point, and I despise Starbucks, but let's hear from it.
Thank you. Have a good one. The new CEO's challenge, luring back Starbucks customers who've been driven away by inflation, long waits, and cheaper coffee at competitors.
I don't like the prices. I think they have gone up a lot. It's a good bit cheaper at the local coffee shop.
The move comes as higher prices have turned many Americans away. KFC, Pizza Hut, and McDonald's, all reporting falling sales, are now offering value meals. Thank you. Have a good one. The new CEO's challenge, luring back Starbucks customers who've been driven away by inflation, long waits, and cheaper coffee at competitors.
I don't like the prices. I think they have gone up a lot. It's a good bit cheaper at the local coffee shop.
The move comes as higher prices have turned many Americans away.
All right. I was going to let it run to show the tranny flag or whatever the heck that was. It was the rainbow flag hanging in the background. That's a shiny object. That's the laser pointer. We can focus on those issues, and they're there, and they're a big deal. The cultural issues are a major issue, no doubt. But you're not going to win it based on that. People are not going to go, everything else is great, but I'm just mad about the flag. Those people are already voting for a Trump. And theoretically, they're going to vote for the Republicans' down ticket. Do not forget about these down ticket races. The thing that I'm interested in is the two other things that we're talking about. One, there are costs that are being driven up. And so fast food, who's going to get those fast food jobs when they have to lower the prices? They're going to have to pay less money, aren't they? Because they're going to take in less money for the product. And that illegal immigration or someone with a fake ID card that's willing to work for less money, that stole your identity, that person is going to be a much more attractive candidate. This touches everybody on every level. Meanwhile, we have pitch perfect responses to Donald Trump's attacks. You cannot get more sycophanted than this. This is coming from the Morning Joe part of MSNBC. They have like a daily blog where they cover down from each of the shows. This is one of the articles under that. Kamala Harris's new ad is pitch perfect, apparently. She's going on the offense, and she's touting what she sees as her tough immigration record. Guys, I've got two 30-second clips that Kamala Harris is running out on social media and is putting out into the space. That is her trying to claim a tough on immigration record. The fact of the matter is, that's amazing. That is amazing revisionist history. And it's the danger that AI presents when people have no knowledge of the past. I guess they can be completely unburdened by what has been, right? That's the joke. Because she's going to try to claim that she's strong on immigration and that Donald Trump was the guy who, because he was running for president, basically talked the legislatures out of passing some sort of bipartisan tough on the border thing. No, he didn't see that as a win. The man doesn't even have a spot in government at the moment. So if you're going to blame anybody, blame all the people in the House and the Senate that decided that this was garbage. They're going to claim that the facts speak for themselves. The border crossings in July, so 1 month when it's hottest and most difficult to get across there, were lower than Donald Trump's last month in the White House. That's what we're going to go with. That's the claim. They're going to make it. Okay. She's doing a perfect job of being a tough on crime prosecutor. I'm going to give you kind of a little taste of this stuff. These are Kamala Harris ads, but we don't believe them. Here's a little taste of tough on, let's see, how about tough on the border?
Kamala Harris has spent decades fighting violent crime. As a border state prosecutor, she took on drug cartels and jailed gang members for smuggling weapons and drugs across the border. As vice president, she backed the toughest border control bill in decades. And as president, she will hire thousands more border agents and crack down on fentanyl and human trafficking. Fixing the border is tough. So is Kamala Harris.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
Okay, great, Kamala Harris. You approve that message, and you think there need to be thousands more Border Patrol agents, and you think that you're a border state prosecutor. That's a rich one, isn't it? Here's Peter Doocy asking the White House press secretary, hey, when was there daylight? And she struggles, and this was referred to as a big win. That Karine Jean-Pierre, Sideshow Bob, was able to crush Peter Doocy with her answer. They're just going to lie. There's no other option. Because how on earth do you run against your own record of your own administration? I think Doocy's making a brilliant point here. And it absolutely derails KJP.
How long have you guys known that Vice President Harris does not think President Biden is doing a good job at the border?
Wait, say that one more time?
Well, she's now promising to hire thousands more border agents than there are now under President Biden.
Wait, but start your question again.
How long have you guys known that Vice President Harris does not think that President Biden is effective with his border policy?
I mean, that you're making a huge jump. Why she did not say this. This is something that you are assuming. I don't understand why you would assume that. It's not true.
She has a campaign ad where she is saying they need more Border Patrol agents. If President Biden's doing such a good job, why do they need any more border agents?
We both believe that. The president does want more Border Patrol agents, you know?
Yeah, he probably does. He probably does. He's looking for having more people there to bring folks in and process them through the lines. They're not letting Border Patrol do their job. Did you notice how many times, like, I've listened to a lot of these press conferences. She doesn't ask for a repeat 3 times very often. He had to repeat the question 3 times and then back from the beginning so she could try to spool up an answer to say how you excuse this kind of thing. It's not there. It's 2 lines that she's trying to directly. You can tell where Kamala Harris is weak. She's weak on the economy because she's got to own the Bidenomics garbage, the Build Back Better plan that has failed. And she's got to own the border record, which is atrocious. So she's released ads that do both the things. Listen, Kamala Harris is going to tell you that she's a regular person. Except you look, she basically lived in, like, how many of you have the regular person experience of living in another country and going to high school, which is what she did, then going to law school, then immediately going straight into politics and working as a line prosecutor and then the DA and then going into the AG and then getting into the Senate and leaving in her first term to go and become the vice president of the United States. It's a meteoric rise. There's nothing regular about that. Her dad was a Stanford professor. So that is not like your standard middle class upbringing, even if her parents divorced. And she had a working mom because why? Because she believes in failed policies. These people came in, they're not regular people. That's not a regular people story. None of it is. Her mom just picked up and moved to another country and then came back. And then she went to Howard University. Like, what? I don't know how you make this claim unless you just know that you have low information voters, which is what we're talking about here, which is why the economy, where she's telling you she's weak, and the border make the most amount of sense. If she's arguing something, I know the opposite is true. Here's an example of me knowing that based on her campaign ad. This one is going to be, okay, Kamala's just regular people. Here we go. Cut 8.
She grew up in a middle-class home. She was the daughter of a working mom, and she worked at McDonald's while she got her degree. Kamala Harris knows what it's like to be middle class. It's why she's determined to lower healthcare costs and make housing more affordable. Donald Trump has no plan to help the middle class, just more tax cuts for billionaires. Being president is about who you fight for, and she's fighting for people like you.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
Okay, I'm not a billionaire, and I used to be a federal employee. And I made less than $100,000 a year when I was living outside of D.C. And I saw a huge tax cut when Donald Trump came into office and passed the tax plan that he was pushing. Thousands of dollars. Significant. Like noted it on every single paycheck. That's middle class. I'll tell you what, like $95,000 a year outside of Washington, D.C., in Fairfax County, Virginia, it's middle class. I had a drug dealer living right next to me at one point. It's freaking middle class. It was a nice neighborhood. Except for the drug dealer part, which I did have him arrested a couple times. It's worth noting. Just because you show pictures of yourself from the 70s, and this is the same girl that was apparently in marches for civil rights saying freedom, right? Just like Martin Luther King Jr.'s story. She's told us where she's weak, and we know it's true. That's why they got to lie. That's why they got to do this. This thing really bothers me. At like a pretty high level. This is coming from Axios. This is a useful thing to know. As you are out there, and I know many of you don't use Google, and that's fine, because people around you are using Google. The Harris campaign is using Google ads to rewrite news headlines. Have you seen this nonsense? I'd blow it up. I'll post it out there. It's made a little bit of run on social media, but not nearly enough. They've been editing news headlines and descriptions within Google search ads to make it appear as if The Guardian and Reuters and CBS and other major publishers are actually on her side. They basically take an actual link and try to associate themselves with it. They put paid for by Harris for president, so it's a sponsored ad. You're seeing all the highlighted in yellow, but they've claimed that this is a pretty common practice, and this is fine. The ad mimics a real news result. And so therefore, because it says sponsored, that should be enough for you. How many people are not smart enough to click through these things? How many people are actually willing to go and say, Harris picks Tim Walz and 215,000 Minnesota families win, and that's from their local radio station. And they're like, oh, my local radio station I listen to every day thinks it's great. Or they see something like inflation is down from Reuters. The U.S. is winning the inflation fight. It's a fake headline, and they're being altered and edited, and they're paying for it. You want to know where that $310 million goes? It's going into fake headlines right now. Google said it's no big deal, like other people have done it too. And then you start asking some of the news agencies. The Guardian was one of them. And they said, while we understand how an organization might want to align itself with the Guardian's trusted brand, we have to ensure that it's being appropriately used and with our permission. We'll be reaching out to Google to find out more information about this practice. Most people don't realize you can do that. And Google said, hey, look, it doesn't violate our rules. As long as it says sponsored on there, which is what it does, it's okay. You can put out fake headlines. You can associate yourself with supposedly real news organizations. You could rewrite those headlines and put them up there. Not a problem. You want to know what election interference looks like? It looks like this. It looks like Google Ads on the biggest search engine, which we found out it has like a 90% penetration across the country. So even if you're one of the few in this world who is using someone else, a lot of people use Google. It's 95% penetration when it comes to the cell phone market. If people are walking around and they have a question, they're going to Google. It's the default. That's disinformation. I just saw the Renzo Ranza ask in the chat, misinformation? No, disinformation. False information. Knowingly false. Rewriting headlines. It's not malinformation like we try to do here. There's a distinct difference. Misinformation is an accident. Disinformation is on purpose. Malinformation is true, but it's inconvenient. That's what we want to do. It's inconvenient that we can point out to you that they are actually creating their own headlines. The headlines that should be the Harris and Biden legacy look like this. People getting killed, people getting attacked, illegal immigration causing actual damage to regular people in regular places, in local news. It looks something like this.
Also new at noon, an illegal immigrant from Mexico is accused of raping a boy. This is who investigators arrested 34-year-old Filiberto Gonzalez. The Hispanic man is accused of raping a 10-year-old boy twice. Investigators arrested him at his home on Laurel Lane on Monday afternoon. He's awaiting a bond hearing before a justice court judge.
Okay. Does that boy get raped if there's no illegal to do that? I don't think so. That's how the crime works. How about this one coming from the New York Post? Woman raped by 2 NYC migrants. Coney Island. She comes out and says it was an attempted murder. The story is that she was a homeless woman. She had some sort of male companion who got knocked out. And then you've got a migrant who with a sex assault history. Shocking. An illegal immigrant that's come into this country and has done things like this somewhere else. She said it wasn't rape, it was an attempted murder. I kept telling him that God was watching him. You're seeing the screen here. This is Coney Island. It's where people go to take their family to go relax and hang out. They've turned a lot of this country into some really dangerous places. The guy was from Nicaragua. He was charged with the brutal attack on Sunday. She said, I hope he gets a long time. I'm afraid he's going to kill somebody. What are the odds this guy gets out? She'd been living with her boyfriend under a boardwalk behind one of the park stadiums for about 2 weeks. And then this dude found him. Boyfriend was 34 years old. Got punched in the attack as well. And I come up and he's choking her and he's having sex and he's holding a knife to her face. And she's screaming. It's always the poorest of the poor and the people who are the most vulnerable who suffer from these policies. It continues to be the case. When you release a bunch of animals who act like third world animals because that's what they've lived in, because the way they've solved problems was with machete, it's a real thing. Anybody who's worked on some of these gangs that come in from Central America knows exactly how gross it is. And they come in and they lower the standard of living in America because these people aren't used to living in American standards. They think it's totally normal to have 40 people living in a 3-bedroom house. I've done search warrants at 5 a.m., 6 a.m., You come in the middle of the night, or in the middle of the winter, rather, when it's still dark out in the morning, and you're pulling out 12, 13, 15 women from a single family house, and they've all got a couple of kids with them, and there's like 2 or 3 males that are running the roost. And you're there for drugs and sex trafficking and whatever MS-13 nonsense is going on. Like, the women are the victims that came in. The children are the victims. The neighborhood are the victims. The people that are victims of these people that have decided to get violent. There's like victims everywhere. It's a spiral of garbage. It makes the roads less safe because you got people that are driving and doing dangerous things like this stupid crap. If this guy's not there, there was a person that worked out of Washington field office. He was a supervisor. Carlos was killed on a highway on like New Year's Eve, or on Christmas Eve rather, trying to help someone change a flat tire that was stranded, a stranded motorist thing. And an illegal immigrant, too drunk to drive, killed him and got off and didn't even do any time for it. Was totally like, oh, it's just a drunk guy. These stories can come home really, really quickly. Is it big everywhere? Is it pervasive? Not necessarily. How many people need to be killed, though, by someone that has no right to be in this country before it's a problem for you? These stories are emotional, and they're real.
A man from Guatemala is charged for drunk driving in a fatal crash this weekend in Branson. Branson police say William Garcia Rodriguez flipped the truck he was driving Denny Almacar Rizzo of Nicaragua, a passenger in the truck, was killed in the crash. Garcia told police he ran away from the truck without checking on anyone since he was scared of being deported. A breath test showed his blood alcohol level was at 0.272. Garcia admitted to drinking 10 to 12 beers and blacking out before driving.
0.272 was his blood alcohol content. That's at least 3 times the legal limit in most places. I mean, he blacked out and then he thought, oh, I'll just get into a vehicle. But he had the wherewithal to run from the police after his buddy got killed. Who else could he have killed while doing that? These are the actual stories. It's like, oh, you're just a regular person and you don't really care. You just want to go about and have leftist policies. Are you down with illegal immigrants coming in here and driving drunk because they're used to playing slalom on dirt roads where there's nobody driving? And this is America and they have access to a vehicle for some reason? We're so kind. We have so much altruism. It's like suicidal empathy is the thing that keeps running around in my head. I saw that term the other day and it resonates with me. It's people that are soft and try to do what's right in their Christian heart. That's what they think. They're just trying to help these poor folks. No, there's a cost. And the cost could be your family gets killed by a drunk driver, some Guatemalan dude that has no business being here, has no license, is not allowed to operate a vehicle. Turns out doesn't actually obey our laws. Go figure. Broke into the country and then decides to break more laws. And his buddy's dead, but it could have been your family. If he was blackout drunk, and that blood alcohol content, obviously, those are always lower because they don't get him until they get him to jail. Those are lower than what they were. So he was probably closer to 4 times the legal limit when it was all said and done. You think it's cool for that dude to just be driving the wrong way on the wrong side of traffic? Because where he's from, there is no traffic. But Kamala Harris doesn't think we need a border wall. So this is a fun little compilation. Let's hold her to the record. Again, focus in on the actual issues. The issues can be emotional and they can trigger people's hearts. That's fine. The fact of the matter is she's set herself in opposition to everything that Donald Trump has said that he's standing for. So let's get into the business of it. This is what it should look like.
We don't need to build a wall. And by definition, just plain speak, basic English language definition, it is not an emergency.
You know, he talks about this wall. I always say, let me know how high it is. If it's 25 feet, then I'll invest in the 30-foot ladder.
To suggest that we have to build a wall across our southern border because there are terrorists who are trying to invade the country, it couldn't be farther from the truth. It couldn't be farther from the truth.
Out of the terror arrests across the country, we've learned several men with suspected ties to ISIS living in the U.S. have been taken into custody.
Sources familiar with the matter tell us the men crossed the southern border, some over a year ago.
Almost 100 people on the terrorist watch list were released into the U.S. by the Biden administration during a 3-year period.
Tonight, an alarming development in the border crisis. Among the record number of migrants crossing the southern border was a member of an Afghan terror organization.
We are learning that under the Biden and Harris administration, the Border Patrol agents encountered at least 375 illegal migrants on the terror watch list right on the southern border. But what's more shocking is at least 99 of these individuals were actually released into American communities, includes at least 2,000 Afghan nationals, 33,000 Chinese nationals, 551 Iranian nationals, 520 Syrian nationals, and 3,000 Uzbek nationals.
To suggest that we have to build a wall across our southern border because there are terrorists who are trying to invade the country, it couldn't be farther from the truth.
You get it? I worked on some of the Afghan refugee camps that they set up on military bases. I was doing it on Holloman Air Force Base, and I did it at Fort Bliss down near El Paso. Those were both in my backyard when I was working for the FBI. We would get in there, and in the morning, they would tell us that like dozens of people had walked off in the middle of the night. Walked off, flown in on U.S. military aircraft, landed, usually somewhere on the East Coast, then dropped in to wherever it was that they were going to stay. Maybe it was out by Alamogordo, which is where Holloman Air Force Base is. Maybe it was down in Fort Bliss, and they just walked off into the damn desert. They got into an Uber, and they disappeared. No paperwork, no asylum paperwork, none of the State Department processing. Why did they do that? Why did they think they could just roll into America? How many places, like, can you imagine getting picked up in your home nation with whatever's on your back. That's what we're talking about. These people had like hand luggage, backpacks and stuff. You get flown to a foreign nation. You get put into a place where they give you lodging and food, and there's aid workers, and there's hospital centers and all the other kind of things, and there's a government process that's going to come through and give you paperwork so that you can go wherever you want, and it's going to be able to, maybe give you some money. It's going to give you a right to work, like a work permit, and you're like, nah, F it. I'm just going to roll off into the desert here and hang out with my buddies. How many of those people are terrorists? Probably a bunch. That estimate was very obvious to us right on. Those are the people that they manually brought in. That's what the Biden-Harris administration did. August of 21, we can't forget that. That failed policy and withdrawal from Afghanistan also involved an importation of like 100,000 people that don't have American values, that didn't get briefed up on American rules. We had dudes that were in those camps that were beating the hell out of women and saying, you're my wife now. And then the elders would beat the hell out of them. And we're in here going like, did no one tell these dudes they can't do that? And like, by the way, good on them. The elders in whatever group that tent had going on decided to tune this dude up. And we kind of go like, we're bringing in animals that don't get it, that are crapping in the showers, that walk into the showers and just poop on the floor. And I had a kid who was smart. He was a computer programmer. He worked for the State Department. He'd grown up in Kabul. We sit down and talk to him. He was accused of like raping some army soldier, which was nonsense. That was a story you guys can go back. That was part of my whistleblower activity. And I'm talking to him. He's like, I know they're my countrymen, but they're not my people. Like, we're different tribes. Afghanistan is a territory. It's a territory full of a bunch of different people. And these are not my people. And I'm ashamed that I'm being lumped in with them because they poop on the floors and they've never seen a toilet. And I'm like, I get it. I do. We imported that. Does that make America better? No. Do you want people walking and just dropping trow and crapping on the beach or raping somebody underneath the boardwalk? Like, Under the Boardwalk was a love song, wasn't it? It wasn't a migrant rape song. It's gnarly. They've exposed our country to a lot of stuff, and we're going to be dealing with it. Like, it doesn't matter if Donald Trump gets elected. We will be dealing with the consequences of what happened in the last 4 years. Let's make them answer for that. I would like to see Donald Trump continue to stay on message. It's totally doable. They're going to try to make that not happen, by the way. So if you guys want to support my friends over at Catholic Vote, I'm going to tell you something right out of the loop today. Team Harris blasting Twitter for not censoring the hate speech of Elon Musk, the richest man in America, going and speaking to a presidential candidate. God forbid that happen. They're literally trying to make that censor. And the Harris and Biden, the Harris-Walz campaign, the Harris-Biden administration would love to see that censored, as we talked about yesterday. Faith, family, and freedom are the values that guide my friends over at Catholic Vote. You can go to catholicvote.org and get the loop. It's a fantastic email you'll get every morning, and you can follow them on social media for all their takes. They are pro-life. They are pro-Jesus. They are pro-America. They are pro-gun. They are pro-civil liberties. CatholicVote.org. It's at Catholic Vote on all the social media platforms. You'll find them on True Social. You'll find them on X. You'll find them on Facebook. You'll find them on YouTube as well, and also on Rumble if you guys want to go there. And we do have some more stuff in the works with them. We're kind of getting it all kind of lined up. We did a couple of test balloons, and you guys will see some more stuff. So check out my friends at Catholic Vote, please, and make sure that you're supporting them. All right. We're about done with the Weird Wednesday. I know we're coming to a wrap. This goes quick, doesn't it? In the vein of censorship, in the vein of the world being upside down, here's a little Weird Wednesday taste for you. France is launching a probe. This is coming from CBS News. They're launching a probe into the alleged cyberbullying of the Olympic boxer Amin Khalif. XY chromosomes, male genetic build, fought in the women's part of the Olympics, beat the hell out of a female boxer so much that she just walked away from it. You're going to see France go double down on this stuff. So they're interested in putting drag queens doing the Last Supper, and now they're going to debase women by trying to attack the people who simply said what was true. This goes in line with that thing we talked about the other day, the Brits going out there and suggesting that they're going to pursue people. This is a European effort that we are seeing. Multiple countries now that are interested in pursuing people for cyberbullying. How would you like to see an indictment from a French law enforcement organization or a British organization? You think that the Harris-Walz, the Harris-Biden, do you think those folks are not going to be looking at you and going like, yeah, they're our allies. We're going to have to serve their warrant, even though it's for free speech? I don't have a ton of faith in that. Why? Because I worked for the DOJ and I've seen how ideologically captured they are. They agree with this garbage. So the question is can they find a way to justify it? And justifying it under a foreign partnership, that seems right in their wheelhouse. This is not acceptable stuff. This is not American. Trump can hone in on this stuff too. American values are, we can disagree, but you don't get to come after us for speech. This was basically the result of a complaint filed for online harassment saying there's a new fight, that for justice and dignity and honor. There's no justice or dignity or honor in men fighting women, men getting involved in combat sports where females are on the other end of it. I'm sorry if you were confused about who you were or what you were, and that you grew up being told you were one thing, because that's the claim, that this guy was raised as a woman in Algeria. Sure, that's what we want to believe. But there's been lots of misconceptions about gender. There's a criminal investigation, and that's the real key here, right? Criminal investigation initiated because it's misogynistic and racist and sexist and all the things that will be said about anybody that disagrees with Kamala Harris. So get used to it, right up until the point where if Donald Trump wins, and I'm not confident we're going to have a fair election, so I don't know how this goes down, but I do know that 4 more years of this woman being in the public eye is basically be 4 more years of us having to listen to every time you disagree with them, you're a racist or a sexist or a misogynistic jerk. I could do without all of that stuff. All of it. All right. I do have something a little bit funny for you. Sometimes the audience lets slip that they actually know what's going on. They drop the veil. And that happened on Colbert's show the other day. This is our kind of palate cleanser. Let me give you a 5-star review and we'll do the palate cleanse. It's a short one, just like we have kind of, oh, someone stole my review. That someone is probably me. 1 second, I'm going to have to get it. Let me grab my review. I'll give you guys the little palate cleanse real quick, and then we'll put the review up. This is when the laugh line comes up, and it wasn't supposed to be a laugh line. Colbert's still a comedian, so he's still able to play it off, but I do think this is kind of telling.
I know you guys are objective over there, that you just report the news as it is. Oh, I know. CNN makes a... I know.
Is that supposed to be a laugh line?
I wasn't supposed to be, but I guess it is.
What he wanted to say is that you're objective and everybody knew that you're full of crap. That's fun, is it not? One more time.
I know you guys are objective over there, that you just report the news as it is. Oh, I know. CNN makes a... I know.
He tried to cover it, but it doesn't work because they are a joke, and people they are aware of it. Even the audience knew that was a joke. I just think that's fun. They can't hide it forever. So stay on message, stay on the focus. People know what they're paying. People know what is happening in their own lives. People understand there are real consequences if you present them in a meaningful way. And look, he tried to deadpan that thing like it was a real thing. Yeah, CNN is totally unbiased. And people are like, Good one, Stephen Colbert. You dropped the veil. I like it. Here's a 5-star review for you. This one is coming from Shamadekdan. I don't know what that is. That's really good. Shamadekdan. Show in general, 5 stars. Love Kyle's take on most topics, especially the insight into government past and present. Always good for a chuckle on the crazy world we live in. That seems like a pretty good review for a wild Wednesday and some of the weird stuff going on. Let's refocus, though, folks. Let's demand it. One of the things that we do know is that Donald Trump is kind of a populist. Not even kind of. He just is. So focus in on the things. Let him know where you want him to be talking about it so that we can actually convert other people's choices that are otherwise not going to get involved. This is going to be about who turns out if they can overwhelm whatever algorithmic cheat is coming down, because I don't think it's going to be fair. And an even polling situation is kind of a nightmare. I don't think we're going to see a 2016 upset. They realized it when they lost Hillary Clinton because she was supposed to be coronated. And it's not a mistake that the word coronation was being used for Kamala Harris as well. Remember, because Hillary Clinton wasn't the best candidate during that time. She was running up against stiff competition and they had to knock everybody else out. They've gotten their act together in the last 8 years. So I'd like to see the Trump campaign do the same. It's doable. There's plenty of time. Demand it of your politicians. All right. Thanks so much for joining us for today's show. I appreciate it. I really do. If you guys want to check out and get your own merch like this, you can always go to our merch store. Let me do a plug for my buddy Garrett O'Boyle. Oh, of course, I moved all my my assets around, so I don't have a video for it. But it's the-suspendables.com, the-suspendables.com. This is the badge upside down, and it is the Suspendables logo. Some people see it, and they're just seeing me for the first time and going, what's that all about? What it's about is that I used to work for the FBI, and it is underwater. It is under duress. The same way that you may fly an American flag upside down in this time of crisis, we see the same thing in federal law enforcement across the board for all DOJ entities. And so if you want to support my buddy who is fighting the good fight and in a lawsuit against these clowns, you can do so at the-suspendables.com. And if you use my name, it's in the show description. It's in the links in the notes. Promo code KYLE will save you 10% on those as well. They're great shirts. I get good compliments everywhere I go. People don't know who I am, which is great. But they'll be like, oh, that's a cool shirt. They'll see the Last Line Substack, and they think those are really neat too. I've had people stop me in the grocery store and tell me, great shirt. It's like, I know. My friend makes them. If you guys want to have them, you have a friend in GOB Actual, and you guys can support him there. All right. We'll see you again tomorrow on Thursday. I'm trying to line up an interview about gold, which I think is going to be really interesting. If we don't do it tomorrow, it will be coming up real soon. So stay tuned. Make sure you've shared these shows. Make sure you've liked them. And thanks so much for being in our live chat this morning, sharing it on the audio. We do appreciate all of you. I really do. God bless. See you tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to The Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram at Kyle Seraphin.